The roof that we spent over 20,000 euros totally redoing is totally faulty. The whole house is in a far worse state now that we've redone the roof than it was before we even started renovating. So, ciao ragazzi, c'est moi. I'm here, I am back in London. It has been a few days since RoofGate. Like, what? What? Oh my God. And I've just sat down to edit the video, which you are watching now. And I said to myself, well, it's been a few days since then. Why don't I just give a download on my thoughts, since I have been able to have some of the thoughts simmer at this point. Dang, like, I don't really love making these, like, not good vibes videos, but the reality is that, like, this really sucks. I don't really know how else to say it. It's incredibly disappointing. It's been a very intense past few days. You know, every now and then, it's wonderful when we're in Puglia for a long extended period of time and we can do a lot of work at the house, but sometimes I just fly down for, like, bim bam boom, get things done. And basically this discovery about the water infiltration and the failure of the roof happened just a few hours before I was due to take a flight to come back to London after, like, a totally jam-packed 3 days of doing work on picking samples and so on and so forth, working with the new contractors for the work on the annex of our house, the Casa Piccola, the Dependance. If you're new here, my name is Anise, and I'm an American living between London and Italy, and you are joining in the throes of my renovation series, where I have just found out that the over 22,000 euros we invested in the renovation of our roof to make it leak-proof and strong and wonderful and fabulous has not worked. Yeah, it was a jam-packed few days. The day that I touched back down in London, I also then had to get ready to travel again, because then I was shooting a short film in a more northern part of England. I'm done with that filming now, and Bae and I actually are due to go to Jamaica in 2 days. It's been a long-awaited trip. It's a trip that actually was already scheduled for November, but just before Bae and I were to arrive, a very devastating hurricane ripped through Jamaica. It actually ripped through the part of Jamaica where my family lives. So if you didn't know, I am half Jamaican on my mom's side, and a lot of my family still lives in Jamaica. My grandma still lives in Jamaica. So this trip in November was meant for Bae to go to Jamaica for the first time, see my motherland, spend time with my family there, who he hasn't met. He's met my grandmother, but he's never spent time with my grandmother in Jamaica. And when that storm happened, it was super devastating. I wasn't able to have contact with my grandma for days, if not weeks. It was very tough. People died in this storm. It was a Hurricane 5 in Jamaica. My cousin's uncle's roofs got ripped off, like, you know, just water coming into your house. It's a very devastating kind of thing. So that trip was scheduled for November. It was canceled. The flights were canceled. And Bae and I have long been awaiting to take this trip to Jamaica to see my family. Even though it's been about 5 or 6 months since the hurricane, my grandmother has just recently gotten her electricity back, and I think she still doesn't have running water set back up in her house. So it was a very devastating hurricane. Bae and I are so looking forward to spending time with my grandmother, and I know I kind of went off on a tangent there. It might seem like I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but it's things like what I've just shared with you that also helps you maintain perspective. What's going on with my house in Italy is, like, it feels very disappointing and very devastating to me, but also at the same time, I have perspective. I have my health. Bae has his health. The people I love have their health. We are living in a very wild time right now with wars and famine and just awful things and human beings being really awful to one another. So you've got to keep perspective. I don't want this video to be like a sad violin type video. I definitely was in my feels about the roof. The day after I discovered everything with my house, I just like fully like broke down. I'm not even someone who like cries that much. There's nothing wrong with crying. Even though I don't cry a lot, I feel my feelings very deeply. But I think because I stay very busy, I'm kind of on the go sometimes. I'm very much a person who's a problem solver. So I don't like dwell in the sadness of things. I feel my feelings. I really feel them. But I like to make an action plan and I like to execute and I like to get things done. But with this situation, when you feel like you have been pouring so much effort and love and investment into something and then you see something like this happen, like what has now happened with my roof, it just really feels like a gut punch. Like, it's very difficult for me to look at the footage of all the water infiltration and mold in my house because it literally makes me nauseous. Is this problem going to be solved? It 1,000% is going to be solved. I know it's going to be solved. But it's tough. After I finally came back from Puglia, after discovering this devastation in the house, the next day in the morning, oh my God, I just like sobbed because I was just, number one, so exhausted. So it was a lot of my exhaustion coming out mixed with this disappointment. I think one of the things that made me like very emotional about it is, I'm going to try not to be emotional about it now. My Italy house is probably one of the things that I'm like most proud of in my life. I have done a lot of things in my life that I'm proud of, and I think the people who love me and who know me are also proud of me for. But building home and building family is something that has always been very important to me, and I feel there's a lot that has led up to this time in my life where I have found my life partner and, I've begun making a little family. We are building home. We have a lovely, lovely, lovely flat here in London. But this Italy house is this first like proper home and proper house that we own, A flat is also a home. I'm not saying it's not a home, but it's our first house. And there's so much there's so many hopes and dreams and exciting visions that I have for myself, for my family, for my future family, tied up in this house. And on one hand, I feel like this was kind of destined to happen. We're doing a renovation project. There are going to be ups, there are going to be downs, and disappointments are inevitable. Excuse me. But yeah, I think that because I have so much pride in this Italy house and so much pride in this Italy project, I also kind of feel like when we purchased the house, we became the custodians of this house. And even though my Italy home is not a historic home, it's not in a historic center, it's not centuries years old, there are a lot of people who buy in Italy and they buy those kind of historic homes. Our house was built in the 70s, which I think is pretty cool, but it's not like a home from like, the 16th century. But we met the family who built that home, who built the whole community on that road. When we did the villa viewings, you guys can go back and watch the series. You'll see. Sorry, let me just grab a tissue. When we did the villa viewings, we saw 12 villas. that house, when we walked into the house, I knew it was the one. It was just so magical to me. You could feel the good vibes. You could feel that a family who loved each other and who loved spending time down by the beach, a family with, lots of kids and extended cousins and so on and so forth, spent summers growing up in this house. And it just had such a good aura. It still does have a good aura, but I think I'm just trying to share, the disappointment that I feel. I just want to be raw and I just want to be honest. I feel this is the first time in my life that I've become a custodian of a home in this way. And I know that this is not something, I'm not trying to say oh, this is my fault and I did this. And, there are discussions that need to be had with the construction company. And believe me, those discussions are happening. But it feels like such a disappointment for me that I just hate that I've become a custodian of this house. This house has been standing for over 50 years, nearly 60 years. And dang, in the first year of me becoming the custodian of the house, the whole house got all ruined. It's just annoying. And the irony that we were trying to make it better, and actually the house is now in a worse state than when it was transferred over to us is beyond me, But we're here now. We're going to get to the bottom of it and we're going to fix it. Yeah, and that's what matters. That same video that you have seen of me discovering all the water infiltration and mold in the house for the first time, going, what? That video was definitely immediately sent to the contractors, being we have an emergency situation here. The roof is leaking. The roof that we contracted you to not leak is leaking. And yeah, we need you to get over here ASAP and take a look and inspect and see what's going on, and we need this to be fixed. At the same time, we have also roped in some other players to come and inspect the roof. Obviously, we're going to get a set of third-party eyes on this roof to inspect the roof to see what's going on with it and what went wrong. So a geometra. Also, we have a muratore coming to look at the roof who has extensive experience in building and renovating roofs, coming to look at the roof. Yesterday, so obviously I'm in London now, but Roberto is there down on the ground. And yesterday, the contractors who did the roof, or the man in charge of the company, came to our house and took a look. And yeah, it seemed that there was intention there on his part to fix it, to make it right. He said, that he used all good materials. He doesn't know what went wrong, but we were told that it seems he is committed to fixing it and making it right. And I wasn't surprised to hear that, because this same gentleman, when, he was working on the roof, whenever there was something that I didn't like or I was unhappy with, he would fix it. And it did always seem to be a priority to him that I was pleased with the roof and that I was happy with the work being done. So this does not seem out of line with his character. Now that we have a massive problem, the roof, that he's okay, I'm here, I want to fix it. The message was along those lines. It wasn't I take full accountability and I will make sure everything is done correctly to the best, whatever. It wasn't that. Okay, let's not jump the gun. But it was this is really unfortunate. I don't know what went wrong. I'm going to look into it, but I want to make it right. It was along those lines. Once we got that response from him, after he looked at the damage at the roof, then Bay and I drafted a message together to send to him. So we're in a group chat with him and Roberto, who is our eyes on the ground in Puglia, and maybe one or two other people in that construction company are also on the WhatsApp group. Bay and I sent a message yesterday, just kind of making clear our expectations for moving forward. There were two main things that we wanted to share. One, that we expect in the next few days, they send somebody to the house to do like a deep professional clean of the mold that is everywhere. The mold that is all up in her house now is there because y'all built a faulty roof. So we were like, please tell us the chemicals that you're going to use, kind of like a chlorine bleach or whatever it may be, to do a deep professional clean of that mold. The reality is that like mold is a health hazard. This house that Bay and I have bought and have put so much work into already, that we've already invested so much into already, we can't even stay there. We can't even stay there now. So that was the first thing that we shared. And then, Bay has just come back from a walk with Lily. So if you hear things in the background, just don't mind them. And then the second thing that we shared was, so Bay's dad, who is not Italian but European, has been in construction for about 50 years. And so we've been sharing a lot of what happened with Bay's dad, and Bay's dad is going to be flying down to Puglia in a few weeks to also inspect the situation. And so we've shared with the contractors of the roof that, okay, like we have this person who's coming in a few weeks, Bay's dad, to take a look at things. This is his background, blah, blah, blah. And like by the time he comes, we would like essentially a full written report from you on like what happened, what went wrong, and what steps are going to be taken to fix it, like in detail. Yeah. To the brands that you're using, you know, because clearly even like the water repellent grouting that was supposed to be put down, which was like clearly wasn't really a water repellent grouting. It barely stayed on. I can't remember if I've shared that clip with you, but basically a few weeks before this discovery of like all the mold in the house, Roberto had sent me some videos being like, hey, Anise, by the way, FYI, the sealant between the joints on the roof is like coming off. It's peeling off. So this was kind of like a lead up to where we are now. And at that time, when Roberto sent me those videos 3 weeks ago, we immediately contacted the roof contractor being like, hey, the sealant you used isn't working. It doesn't work. So he was aware that he was going to need to come and fix things at the roof already. Nobody was aware that it was going to be this much fixing that was going to be needed until I saw all the mold in the house just a few days ago. But there was awareness already on their part. So we sent those 2 messages in the group chat. And basically the guy who owns the company was like, good morning, okay. He's a man of like very, very, very few words. He doesn't really talk that much. But he kind of was just like, okay. And I'm just like, oh, an okay is an okay. So it's not a lot, but something to start with. Now, within the past 24 hours, one of the other guys, who's like a much more talkative guy who works at the company, has spoken up on the WhatsApp group. And you know, when you already juggling so much, you like, Lord, what new message is coming through on my WhatsApp now? So I've kind of put off until this moment looking at this message because I had a lot of other things I needed to do today. But now it's time. It's time to look at that message. Because I kind of like, when you have a feeling like, this message is about to piss me off. I've had a bit of that feeling. So, in the spirit of togetherness, we're going to look at this message together. I haven't read it yet. I got it here on my phone. It's going to be in Italian. So what I'm going to have to do is open it up, translate it, and read it. And I'm going to read it with y'all. We're going to read through it together. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. Also, I knew it was probably going to piss me off because there's like 12 messages I need to like catch up on. So I'm like, I know it's about to piss me off. Anyways. Okay, let's go one by one, putting this into translate so we can... I used to use Google Translate to help with all of my translations to understand what's being said. from Italian to English, but actually Google Translate like kind of sucks. So what I've started doing, especially because Roberto loves sending a voice note, I actually just play the voice notes or anything I have in Italian, I put it into ChatGPT, and it actually does a much better translation. Oh, the other thing, while I'm putting this into ChatGPT, the other thing that I wanted to say, in Puglia, in my part of Puglia also, noticeably, the climate has been changing a little bit. So the climate has, like, Puglia has never really been like a tropical climate with like lots of rain. But lately there has been a lot more rain. That said, you don't see other people's roofs turning into a tropical moldy rainforest inside, you know? So there's a conversation probably to be had about like the techniques that are used in construction in different regions of the world. So for instance, like I already know that with base dad is like, why wasn't like a waterproof membrane put in the roof? You know, which is something that is very common in like lots of parts of the world. But where we are in Puglia, like people don't do that. They have these concrete roofs and they have like this like sandy kind of calcarenite material that goes on, and then they like put some stones on top and they like keep it moving. And it has worked so far. And even like our house, although it was the roof did have like a small leakage problem. It didn't have as bad as a leakage problem as it has now, but it did have a small leakage problem. Other people's houses are withstanding this new level of rain. Like clearly the point that I'm trying to make is that something went really, really wrong with our roof renovation for it to get to the point where like the water is coming in as much as it is, even worse than how it was coming in before. Okay, so I've put all of his messages into ChatGPT. Y'all know I speak a little bit of Italian, so I can already see parts of this message are already like, what did I say? Pissing me off. Okay, I'm going to read it out loud. Good morning, everyone. I've reviewed the situation with, and by the way, this guy who's written this message is like not a technical person. He's not a technical guy. He's not a builder. He does like the aesthetic stuff. So he does like the design stuff. But he's like very front facing. The guy who's the actual technical person, an actual builder, is much more introverted. And he like doesn't talk very much, but this guy is like, you know, the salesman of the company. Another thing, I'm rambling a lot in this video. Another thing I will say, I've already talked about this in earlier videos. I think the video where I am telling you guys about installing the AC. It's a good video. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. In that video, I talked a little bit about my process of choosing contractors. I think one thing that is worth like making clear, and I think that I've talked about before as well, because sometimes I'll have people in the comments be like, well, you should do this or you should do that or so on and so forth. And I think one thing I just really want to emphasize is my house is not in America, guys. Yeah, my house is not in America. It's not in the UK. It is in a rural southern part of Italy. So I say that just to kind of express that, like, for instance, I got a comment before once, and I loved this comment. It was a very helpful comment, and a thoughtful comment. So if you're the person with the comment, please, like, continue leaving comments on my page. Like, I appreciate when you guys really share your thoughts. But for instance, I got a comment once that was like, okay, like the way that it works with construction is that like you go out, like you get different bids. Usually there's like a general contractor and they will like, you know, have the subcontractors who will give different prices for like the different amount of works. And then like you look at all the bids and like you see what you think is best. Like you pick the best one. Like some will be low, some will be high, some will be low for a reason, some will. What I'm trying to share, like, listen, y'all, it doesn't operate like that in the south of Italy, okay? In the rural part on the beach in the south of Italy. It just doesn't work like that. The local electrician is also the pizza maker. Yeah, like this is what we're talking about. So in that video where I showed y'all how we were installing our AC, I talked about how I ended up choosing contractors. I did get different quotes from different people. Right now, the team that I'm working with is basically what I have referred to in the past of Roberto's band of brothers. It is people who have been vetted, who Roberto knows very well, who have a reputation in the area where I live. I know that they have done like lots of different, I've seen the properties that they've done. I've seen the work that they've done. I've met people who has done work for them. And it's basically just like a loose network of guys that Roberto knows that we have kind of pulled together to form a little team. That's what's going on right now in the renovation of our dependance of the annex. And then we also have Christine whooped in, and she's a great addition to the team as well. She's a super helpful addition to the team. Thank God for Christine, because she's like really helping the project move along and really helping my visions come to life. That's who we're working with now. Who we worked with when we did the roof, basically, is a company. They call it like an edilizia, like a construction company. For instance, Roberto and his band of brothers, they're not a construction company together. We are for the roof, we worked with a construction company. Someone who was recommended to us from friends that we have. And like this construction company did a good job at their house. They basically like renovated their whole house. And we went to go see that house. Was everything perfect? No. Were there some problems? Yes. As there always will be in construction. No matter who you choose, you are going to have problems in construction. It's just going to happen. You're going to say, please put the plugs here, and they're going to put the plugs over there. And then you're going to be like, how the hell am I supposed to do what I want to do? Because I asked y'all to put the plugs there, and you put the plugs all the way up there, right? You know, those kind of problems seem very, I wish that was my problem right now. But this company was recommended to us. And, I am thankful to our friends who recommended it to us. At the time, we like didn't know anybody really in the area, and we didn't know anyone who had a full company who could do work as big as like a full roof renovation. Y'all, if you haven't seen my roof renovation episodes in the renovation series, go back and watch them. We had to have full on like cranes coming in, putting huge slabs of stone down. Like for the roof renovation, it was going to be very difficult to just use a band of brothers to like pull it all together. You needed people who had access to like the cranes and the machines and like that kind of stuff to do this roof renovation. There was another company that we very briefly considered because we saw them doing work on like a neighbor's house on our road, and they would be there every day and it looked like they were doing a good job. But those neighbors like were never at their house, so we never had a chance to go and ask those neighbors like, oh, how are these guys? And while the guys seemed very good, we didn't have a recommendation from them. If we had used them, we would have just used them because we saw them doing work every day, but we didn't know if they were good or not. But the guys we chose for the roof, we chose because like we were recommended them. It was a decent review, right? They were like the only company that we knew of that was capable of doing the work that we wanted to do, and that we knew people they had done work for, and like things had gone decently well enough. So that's a little backstory on like how I ended up with this company. Yeah, just wanted to get that out of the way. All right, now let's see what this spokesman said. Good evening, everyone. I've reviewed the situation with the roof, and I'm very sorry about what has happened. I'm available to work together to find a solution as far as my responsibility is concerned. Well, he's the like aesthetics guy, and so I never met this guy until like the very end of our roof project. So like he wasn't really involved, so I don't really know why he getting involved. And he's also like not wanting to be involved, clearly by saying as far as my responsibility is concerned. But anyways, let's carry on. Regarding the mold and the treatment to be carried out, I would suggest consulting technical experts who can indicate the correct procedure and products to use. In my opinion, this should be done after we have definitively resolved the roof issues with proper waterproofing. So on one hand, I agree, like proper technical experts should definitely do it, but like they need to foot the cost because they damaged our house. Like we didn't do this, they did this. So they need to foot the cost. I think that like as bad as the mold is now, we kind of need to like nip it in the bud. If later on down the road there is a bit more mold that needs to be taken care of because it's going to take time for the roof to get fixed, okay, we'll do it again then. Yeah. But I think that like when mold is fresh, it can go away quite quickly, but when you like let it sit, it can be harder to it can be harder to get rid of. And quite frankly, I want y'all to remember, we are in the south of Italy. Nothing happens quickly, right? So even this whole like refixing of the roof is going to take time. Like if it rains where we live, like nobody can work, apparently. So like that already delays things, right? It has to be a sunny day for them to do the work. So yeah, it's part of like the spirit down there. It's like, oh, like we need to wait for this, we need to wait for that. So so far, message is not up to the best start. Not horrific, but not up to the best start. As for the problems with your roof, I already see this is about to piss me off. As for the problems with your roof, I believe there may have already been structural issues that were not identified at the beginning due to the lack of a technical inspection by an expert, especially considering that this is an old building. Therefore, we followed what was agreed together with you based on your requests, which were to restore the old slabs, work with the existing underlying material, insert insulating panels, waterproof the joints, and everything else according to your instructions. Unfortunately, the work was carried out in very high temperatures, followed by continuous rainfall up to today, which may have significantly affected and compromised the work. Unfortunately, in Puglia over the past year, we've had many climate-related issues. So I would propose as a first step to wait until the heavy rain stops and then redo the waterproof joints, which have been retouched too many times, also due to changes in color and finish, and we didn't allow enough time for them to properly settle. I would also be happy to meet your father and hear his opinion on the matter, hoping for you that everything can be resolved in the best possible way. Oh, sorry, guys. And this is what my life is like. By the way, I'm wearing these fake nails because I did a movie and I needed them for the movie. That's why. But they just be popping off. Just how everything be happening in my life right now. Things just popping off. So, yeah, I think that like this message is one of like trying not to take accountability. And I see why someone would do that. Like the roof costs like over 20 grand to do, and like, you know, they don't want to lose money on redoing this roof. But we didn't want to lose money on having them give us a faulty roof. At the core of our agreement for them to do this roof was to give us a roof that wasn't leaking. Yeah? At all. If there were any concerns, if they felt like they didn't know how to do that, then they should have said that. And they didn't. They did our roof and took our money to give us, or were supposed to give us, a leak-proof roof. And they didn't deliver on that. So, you know, now he's trying to say, oh, like the waterproofing got messed up because we had to retouch it too many times due to changes in color and finish because y'all were making an ugly ass bad roof and you weren't doing it properly. Anyways, don't let me get into this too much. But yeah, you know, we are going to this guy is just trying to shift blame and shift accountability. So, yeah, I know Bay's annoyed with the message. I'm going to convene with him now to see how we're going to like respond to this, but I think obviously it's in everyone's best interest that this gets resolved. We're not going to go down with a fight, but we also don't want to fight. And like I think it's a culture of like figuring things out where we live for sure. I think this guy approaches things very differently from the guy who owns the company. So like I'm not surprised that we got this response. But we are obviously not going to be investing more money with them on this roof. So they can either fix it at their own cost or they can give us our money back and we will get other people to do the roof. Hi, baby. I'm going to wrap up this video now. I read the message.
Amazing, right?
Do you have any final words that you want to say before I wrap the video?
Yeah, it's amazing how you hire people to fix the leaking roof, and then they're like, "Oh, we've done everything we agreed," and and the whole house is drenched in water. Um,
Well,
but hopefully they'll see reason. We'll
yeah,
see.
we're gonna go discuss this now, and yeah, I'm gonna leave you guys on that note. We'll keep you posted. Hopefully, I'll have good news or better news for you sooner rather than later. But as always, thanks so much for sticking by us on this journey. I think you guys have always known that like this was never going to be a perfect journey. We went into this knowing that there were going to be ups, there were going to be some downs, but Lord, talk about one step forward, and then you feel like you got two steps back. And then you have these moments where I'm like, why do we have to be so ambitious? Why can't we just be happy with what we have? We are happy with what we have, but like we also have dreams. But listen,
It was hard.
mo dreams, mo problems. That's the saying.
It was hard.
Anyways, yeah. Guess my best bet is as good as any of what's gonna happen next. We're gonna stay optimistic. We're gonna be determined to get it resolved. We're gonna be professional. We're gonna keep the vibes as high as possible, and hopefully we'll be able to find a harmonious way of coming to a solution. But I'll keep you guys posted. Keep us in your prayers, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Yeah, we'll have hopefully something more fun to experience. Get back to the fun time soon. All right, until then, guys, ci vediamo. Ciao.